Welcome to Meet the Candidate. I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce. And today we're joined by Bryan McClure, current Town Council member seeking re-election. Bryan, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Happy to be here.
Just tell us a little bit about your background and your experience.
For sure, yeah. I've really enjoyed serving on the council, and it's been an honor.
How long have you been on now?
So I'm finishing my 4th year on council, so it's been a great first term, and look forward to a second. And I feel like I have a lot of value to bring just because I'm from here, and as a native, I think it's a unique perspective. I also feel like being a small business owner really helps. That brings a lot of value to the business community, I feel like. And then, of course, just being a family man, lifestyle is very important for my kids and future grandkids, and it's such a family-focused community. And of course, I also have a background in finance, which I think is important as we grow and are concentrating on economic development and so forth.
Yeah, and I think when you say native, you mean native. You're like from Queen Creek, right?
Yeah, I grew up on the farm. It's a wonderful place to grow up, and I feel like it still is for the families that are here today.
That's awesome. And have you been through citizen leadership, held any other boards, roles, positions other than when you were on council?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did graduate from Citizen Leadership Institute, I believe it was in 2017. Great program. When people say, hey, I want to get involved, I recommend they start there. It's a wonderful opportunity. And then also have been real involved in the community with different nonprofits and serving in our faith, and also had the privilege of being a member of the chamber since 2009. Later served as an ambassador, and then on the board, and then chair of the board, which is a great privilege, and still enjoy participating today. And
then currently on council, you're the vice mayor for Queen Creek. Is that correct?
I am, yeah. So mayor appointed me in January, and that's going well. It's really a privilege to help any way I can, and be there when I'm needed, and be a liaison with the schools, which we have a lot of great schools in the community, and really just support the mayor and all of council any way I can.
And then along with that role, are you serving on boards and commissions?
Yeah, so I've actually for multiple years served on the East Valley Partnership. That board has really done a lot for the East Valley, and growing our industry, and of course promoting business, and also I've served on multiple committees: Economic Development, Parks and Rec Advisory Council. Have been on Valley Metro Board, so there's a lot of opportunities when you're on council to get involved and provide input and serve. So it's been a pleasure.
How would you say that shaped your perspective, or perhaps changed your perspective on where we are in the region?
Well, I have learned so much. It's been really eye-opening how everything comes together. A lot of folks have the privilege of living here, and we love it when we turn on our faucet and there's clean water coming out, or we flush the toilet and it goes down. There's just so many things that happen behind the scenes that maybe we're not aware of. The great work that our public safety does to keep us protected. I love seeing how it all comes together, and it really is a beautiful thing to just operate behind the scenes and make sure that people can live, work, play in a great environment, and so to have a role in guiding the direction of the community. When I got on council, the first time I really wasn't coming here to make any drastic changes. We have a great track record. We're a very desirable community, and it's been ranked best place to raise a family west of the Mississippi. Of course, best place to live in Arizona recently. Top 25 cities for dog lovers. So there's lots lots of good things going on. And so my purpose was to just keep it, like I said, going in that positive direction to where it can be a great place for families and business for years to come.
And so along those lines, why are you seeking your second term? What would you like to accomplish, or is there something that you feel needs to be done during the second term?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. It's projects that we've already begun work on. As you know, we got so much going on downtown. Since I've started, we're at 57 times the square footage of commercial space under development. So we want to see through that vision of a walkable downtown. So I'm really excited to see how that comes to fruition. A lot of great progress so far with the switchyard and other projects, but we're going to be meeting mid-year for our strategic planning session to discuss what we do in this core area, and so that's a big exciting thing that I know everybody looks forward to coming about. And then of course we're very serious about our water. There's more work to be done there, but we've made a lot of progress in reducing our reliance on groundwater and lowering our costs for our residents. So that's been a hot topic. And then of course roads. That's something that we've always focused on and are continue to work hard. You know that 70% of our traffic aren't Queen Creek residents, and so I'm very focused on helping Santan Valley, because their success is our success. Not only are we, funding their operation until they get their state shared revenue, but we're advocating for Pinal Parkway and finishing the 24 and finding ways to get through town in an efficient way, because we have regular traffic, and then during rush hour we have also commuter traffic on top of that, which is very challenging. But we're focused on improving every intersection we can, from more turning lanes to actually having a real intersection at Germain and Sossman. So I've been advocating down at the Capitol for that, because it involves a rail crossing. So we got to get that approved through the ACC. And but just imagine having another road that can go from Pinal County all the way to the I-10. And then of course our north-south corridors, really making more lanes available to get people moving along. And I really feel like the more we can attract livable wage jobs, the more we'll be able to reduce commutes and have folks not just live here but work here as well, which is going to be exciting.
You touched on a lot of topics there and covered a lot of ground for me. But let's back up for just a second to the water. And so does Queen Creek have enough water? And then you mentioned diversifying from groundwater. Tell us a little bit more about what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we do have enough water. There's some common misconceptions out there that we're running out of water, and that's simply not the case. We've been very proactive and really the pioneers on being responsible and planning ahead for water. And so our historic purchase from the Harquahala Valley has set us up for success long term for 110 years, really. And so by having that resource that's essentially drought proof, we're not concerned about the allocations being reduced on the Colorado River. We're not having to replace so much of the water that we pull out of the ground, because all that is expensive. And of course, because of good planning, growing up here, our water table is actually half as deep as it was, and that's because we're responsible and replenishing, and ultimately, the goal is to become a designated water provider, which eliminates the CAGRID fee on folks' property taxes, which will be much lower than the cost of this purchase of the new water. So it's a complicated issue, but we have the best minds working on it and full support of the council working together to make sure we properly fund that infrastructure to set us up for success, because when we are in a good position with water, a lot of other things can happen that are important for the future of our community.
And so really high level, what you were just describing, we made a purchase of water in a different area, and the cost of that water will be offset somewhat by being able to reduce a fee that we have to pay to the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District.
Thank you. Sorry, too many acronyms.
And so there are some costs, of course, but a lot of it will be offset by improvements across the system. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's correct. So, we have to obviously fund that purchase, and we're in a good position to do that. But yes, the additional costs that would come from that is less than what we're currently paying to have them replenish the water that we're pulling out of the ground. So it really is a win for our residents, but most importantly, it allows us to function long term without concerns of not having enough water coming through the CAP from the Colorado River. That's the big one.
Yeah, that is, especially now as we're still in the middle of negotiations as we film this. So you mentioned going down to the Capitol and talking to the Corporation Commission in order to get the railroad crossing. But speaking of Capitol, what do you think about the legislature's recent legislative moves to try and restrict the ability of municipalities to set design standards and or taxes and fees?
Well, I think of the Jeffersonian philosophy of the government closest to the people governs best, and the needs of Queen Creek are different than other parts of the state, and so to just have a blanket standard or lack thereof to apply to everyone, I don't think makes sense. I understand what they're trying to do, but I'm not sure that the intention will yield the result they're looking for. And so I think it's important for Queen Creek to basically set our own course and control our destiny, because we do have really attractive standards. As you know, we have lower density than some of our neighboring communities, and that's important to us. I don't want a heat dome over my hometown, and so having the ability to control density and control, high standards to where it's an attractive place to live and is important. And so we need that ability. Obviously, we aren't looking to overstep or be overregulate, I should say. It's just that we want attractive projects that don't harm their neighbor, and it makes sense. There's flow, right? That's what zoning does. Is you're not having two structures right next to each other that make no sense, and eliminating that ability to plan could really be a problem. And
yes, Queen Creek is definitely an attractive place. Businesses locate here primarily because it is such a wonderful community. You mentioned all of the accolades that Queen Creek has won over time. And so keeping those design standards is important. But how do you think the town should address making housing more affordable?
Well, we all know that it's really the free market that decides what things cost. We can't be all things to all people. I don't think we'll ever be the cheapest, nor do we want to be.
Is there a place for apartment housing or alternate types of housing?
As you build out a city, because we're nowhere near build out, we'll be at about 150,000 when that comes, and we're only about 90 currently. So there is a need for mixed density, finding that right balance, and the things that we can control. And if we really look at the big picture, economically, Arizona does better than the country overall, and then Queen Creek does better than Arizona overall. So if you have a booming economy, and a lot of people want to move there and live there, that demand buoys up prices, and so so there's that challenge, but also means we're a victim of our own success and doing a good job because we are an attractive place to come, whether it's to live or work. And so, but the things that we can do and control and improve on is efficiencies with our, planning and development, right? We want to make sure that it's easy to do business. We want to make sure that we remember the importance of property rights, allowing landowners to do the right things with their, again, keeping in mind the projects are attractive, they're safe for the community, but allowing them to, produce what's market viable is important, and respecting those property rights. And so I feel like, if we can work on becoming a designated water provider, then that helps, because then maybe instead of just apartments, we could have actually condos, because we've seen projects having to convert from condos to apartments because of the moratorium the governor placed. And so if we can become a designated water provider and have more ownership, I'm a big believer in home ownership, right? More ownership options for smaller families, dual income, no kids, maybe retirees that don't want to take care of a yard, but they don't want to rent, So creating those opportunities, again, has to be market viable. But if we are able to attract more of that, I'm in full support, because, we do need to have options for every size and lifestyle that family that we have here in the community. And so there is a place for it. Obviously, it has to make sense, the location, and and it has to be a good fit for the community. But the other thing that I really would advocate, and we'll need everybody's help on this one because it's not necessarily in the town's purview, is raising the capital gains exemption from, right now it's $500,000 for a couple on real estate if they sell their personal residence, to have that exemption for capital gains tax. Well, I would say we should double that, and then what will happen is a lot of folks that are in these bigger homes that don't want to sell because they have so much embedded capital gains would then see the value of downsizing, which then creates opportunity for folks that maybe have grown past the 3-bedroom, 2-bath mode with the number of kids they have, to get into those bigger homes, and then that opens up those starter homes for new families, which it's just a ripple effect. So I think we work at it from all angles and do what we can. Obviously, the fact that it's a great place to live is going to keep those costs a little bit higher than some other areas, and that's okay. Right? Like I said, we can't be all things to all people, but if we can have the right mix of medium to lower density, and there's transitions for folks to not have to leave, my kids not to have to leave Queen Creek to have a place to live. We need to strive for that.
That's a lot of ground.
Sorry,
we've covered. No,
I'm passionate about it. So
I like that, and you've made my job so much easier.
Okay.
One final thing I think I'd like us to take a look at is the park situation. So you had mentioned the heat dome and things like that, and lower density in Queen Creek. We were supposed to have more open spaces, and some of that's built into the subdivisions, but we do have our parks. But what do you think about the town's park plan? And do you support parks and more parks, or do you think there should be fewer, or are we done with parks?
No, we definitely need to continue to focus on open space and having good parks. The challenge with neighborhood parks is they don't build ball fields, right? And you see, as soon as Frontier Family opened, it was being fully utilized because there is a need in the community for those type of projects. Obviously, we're not going to do another one quite so grandiose as the Aquatic Center and the Frontier Family Park. That's our crown jewel, and everyone loves it. But as we continue to grow, we do want to provide a level of service beyond what we have today, and so we're not done yet. There's a way to do it that's fiscally responsible. But years ago, I was talking to Mark Schneff, and seeing the growth and the changes that were happening to our wonderful community, I said, so how do we keep some more of this open space? And he said, really the only way is to buy it. And so as the council, we've found it's important to invest in that open space and parks and quality places for families to get off screens and move their bodies. And, you know, obviously if we're using our parks, we're going to be healthier in more ways than one. And so we need to be intentional with that. You know, I know in the near term, our focus budget-wise is water, is roads. But we will get back to, you know, and of course public safety, that's very, very important, and we are focused on that. But we will get back to expanding our parks because, like I said, there is still a need, and there are, you know, there's an update to our plans for parks, and that's coming up, so we're going to continue to work on that. But there are places around the community that we've already identified that would be ideal for future park space. So it's all in the works. Like I said, we're not done yet, and it's important to me that we you know, have great parks. I mean, we just opened up the new dog park, and that's exciting. I love that there's a place for you know, larger dogs, more timid dogs, you know, they can rotate it so the grass stays healthy. Like, just thinking ahead on those things makes it a really great place for our residents to recreate and, you know, connect with their neighbors. You know, we know that one thing that makes Queen Creek so special is the people. And so we need to have those opportunities where people can celebrate and connect and exercise and you know, enjoy nature, and so our trails program, our parks are a very important part of that, and we're proud to support them.
That's great. Is there anything that we haven't addressed that you wanted to get to? I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Perfect.
Yeah, no, I just appreciate support, and, you know, ultimately it comes down to, if you like how things are going, we probably should keep the folks in there that are doing that good work in there to continue that. And so I just appreciate all that the chamber does and the community. I love our residents and our business community, and just working together with the town. The organization's doing very well. It's growing, but we're doing it in a responsible way. And ultimately, I think you might be hard-pressed to find someone that loves Queen Creek as much as I do, and is willing to work as hard as I am to make it a wonderful place for everyone. That's great. Are you running a campaign website? Yeah, actually, I wanted to get across the finish line with signatures, but I have someone setting up my website as we speak. Of course, you can go to my my Facebook page. Love for you to follow and see what I put up there for updates. You know, we'll have an opportunity if you'd like to donate or host a home meeting to bring some neighbors and just ask questions. I love interacting with the community, and so any events that you have, please you know, invite me, and I'd love to share more about the great things we're doing here in Queen Creek. Well, it was great having you in, Bryan. Thank you so much for your time today. My pleasure.